We like to think that our beliefs are things that we actively choose. We read a book, watch a documentary, come to a conclusion. But the truth is much messier. Most of our values don't come from a formal education. They come from the media that we absorb without even noticing. The TV shows we binge, the songs we don't realize that we've memorized, the podcasts in the background during commutes, and the ideas that we walk away with, they never quite feel like they came from somewhere else. They feel like ours. When Donald Trump sat down with Joe Rogan in 2024, millions of people didn't tune in for a political rally. They tuned in for a conversation. But research estimates that appearance shifted support by roughly 1 to 2.6%. Those viewers didn't walk away thinking they'd been persuaded. They just walked away with the new opinions that somehow felt like their own. That's the quiet power of influential media. It doesn't lecture you. It just spends time with you. And eventually, its ideas becomes yours. For a while, I thought that radicalization mostly happened through books, lectures, and speeches. But when I think about my own political awakening, it turns out that video games were actually the most influential medium in my life. I wasn't looking for political ideology when I first played these games, and it's not like these games are overtly political themselves. Yet, I still find myself referencing them when talking about things like consumer culture and religion. So today, we're going to be talking about 3 video games that radicalized me. Political ideas have a way of seeping in through the cracks if you don't notice. For me, those cracks were filled with punk rock and combo meters. One of the first video games I've ever played was Tony Hawk's Underground 2, and it wasn't trying to sell me an ideology. On paper, it's just cruel chaos, but games teach through repetition, and Underground 2 normalized something simple: disrespect authority. Cops were seen as obstacles, private property was a suggestion. The game never really said anarchy, but it didn't have to either.
Beautiful. So beautiful. My life finally has a meaning.
And then came Tony Hawk's American Wasteland. And this time, the game had a thesis. You arrive in LA and you join a group of skaters trying to build a skate park. The villains aren't rival skaters though. They're developers, construction crews.
If it isn't Mr. Crimey McLawbreaker.
The game introduced to me displacement. The idea that cities are shaped by money and the powerless get pushed out. You build your skate park not by buying materials, but by stealing them. You tear down billboards, you rip plywood off abandoned buildings. You repurpose the city's own debris into something the city would never even build for you. Vandalism becomes construction. Reuse becomes refuge. None of this happened in a vacuum. The Tony Hawk games are drenched in punk culture, and not just aesthetically, but as an identity. Punk has always been a political statement on its own. Anti-authority, anti-corporate, DIY to the bone. The soundtrack wasn't background noise. It was the thesis. Bands like the Dead Kennedys, Public Enemy, and Steel Pulse filled my ears with songs about police brutality and systematic rot. I may not have understood the references at the time, but I definitely understood the attitude. Like I said earlier, I wasn't being radicalized in any formal sense. I was just a kid playing a skateboarding game that just happened to feature some of the most politically charged music in the last 3 decades. But those hours spent grinding rails and stealing plywood planted seeds for ideas that I didn't even have the words for just yet. Here's the thing they don't tell you about rebellion. Eventually, someone tries to sell it back to you. Saints Row looks like a typical crime game about a gang, but buried in between the shootouts and turf wars is a surprisingly sharp analysis of late-stage capitalism. The main villains are Ultor, a corporation so corrupt they make Amazon look like saints.
This neighborhood has devolved into a dangerous ghetto filled with undesirables such as these. Picture this: glass towers, clean streets, and no one below the poverty line trying to wash your car.
Ultor owns the city's police. They have their own private army. They've been quietly instigating gang violence for years, intentionally driving down property values so they can buy up the ruins for pennies on the dollar. Most of the conflict between gangs traces back to Ultor's CEO, Dane Vogel, pulling strings from his high-rise office. With the gangs at war with each other, Ultor can just come in and clean house. Why? Real estate, casinos, weapons manufacturing. I was learning about gentrification before I had the words for it. And then came Saints Row III. Most fans hate this entry. The series traded its gritty street cred for laser pistols and giant dildos. And yeah, it's goofier, but something else changes too. The game moves to a new city, Steelport, and the Saints aren't fighting mega corporations anymore. Because now they are the mega corporation. Energy drinks, clothing lines, TV shows, they're buying up real estate instead of fighting for it. While researching for this video, I discovered that between the second and third game, the Saints actually merged with Ultor. That's how they made the leap from gang to brand. They didn't beat the system, they became the new management. And honestly, the over-the-top shit fits better than it should. We're living in a world where a reality TV star became president, where corporations absorb every counterculture they encounter, where the lines between absurdity and reality stopped existing years ago. Saints Row 4 looked ridiculous in 2013, but in 2026, it looks like a Tuesday. If Saints Row was about watching power be absorbed by corporations, then The Sims was about holding power in your own hands. Here's the thing about The Sims. It doesn't really look political because it doesn't really look like anything. It's just life. The mundane parts, the parts that we really don't think about. But that's where the politics hide. In the ordinary, in the routines, in the systems that we're so familiar with that we forget that they were built by someone. I grew up with Sunday school lessons about a loving creator who watches over us, who has a plan, and sometimes will test us in ways that we may not ever understand. Then I booted up The Sims and realized that I was doing the same thing. I'd build beautiful houses, move people in, and then get curious. What happens if I delete the door? What happens if I trap them in a room with no toilet? What happens if I put the pool ladder in my inventory and just forget? The Sims never knew why. They just suffered. They just kept going on about their lives, trusting that whatever was happening above them must be part of some greater plan. And I sat there, capricious and unseen, bored and cruel for no reason at all.
Yes, it's all coming together.
And that's when it clicked. Not that God exists or doesn't exist, but that it doesn't matter. Watching my Sims worship the ground I walked on while I actively made their lives miserable taught me something no sermon could ever. Just because someone is above you doesn't mean they deserve your devotion. Power and goodness are not the same thing. And blind worship, whether a deity, a leader, or a system, is just a way of volunteering for a cage you can't see. The Sims didn't deconstruct Christianity for me through arguments. It deconstructed it through experience. I sat in the creator's chair and realized that I wouldn't worship me. So why would I want to worship anyone else?
Oh, nah! Let's go get him run over or something.
I didn't go looking for politics in any of these games. I went looking for fun. But here's the thing that I've come to understand. Everything is political. Not in a heavy, overt, sign-waving kind of way, but because politics is the word that we use for the struggle of power. And every game, no matter how silly, how mundane, or how seemingly detached it is from the real world, is built on conflict. You don't have to seek politics in video games. You just have to pay attention. Because if there's conflict, there's power. And if there's power, there's politics. That's the thing about influential media. It doesn't have to announce itself. It just spends time with you. It normalizes ideas before you're old enough to question. It makes certain ways of seeing the world feel obvious, natural, like they were yours all along. The games didn't radicalize me on purpose. They just trusted me to draw my own conclusions. So here's my question for you. What exactly are you consuming? Not just watching or playing, but absorbing. What ideas are slipping through the cracks of your entertainment? Because it's happening, whether you notice it or not.